Last week, 3 friends of mine failed their PT test. More specifically, they failed the run portion of their PT test. And I couldn't imagine how 3 guys, not overweight, not that out of shape, could all fail the run on their PT test. After thinking about it for a little bit, I realized they all smoke. So this intrigued me to do a little research on how smoking can have its negative consequences. As stated in an article from author Andy Whaley on Livestrong.com, a 2008 study led by NASA's Wiley Laboratories' Larry T. Weir looked at VO2 max levels of runners who smoke regularly. Runners were grouped by how many cigarettes they smoked on an average day. Each group saw significant decreases in VO2 max as the level of smoking exposure increased, making their running performance suffer as compared to non-smokers with the same amount of training. By explaining the associated health concerns, inconveniences, and expenses of smoking cigarettes, I'm going to help you realize what an unhealthy lifestyle choice it can be for those of us in the military. The biggest concern associated with smoking is your health. Growing up, I had to play witness to the side effects smoking had on my mom. She was always constantly coughing and would become short of breath very easily. I didn't think much of it back then, but after doing some research now, I realize how serious it can be. According to the 2004 Surgeon General report, lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in the United States, and cigarette smoking causes most cases. Although sustained smoking cessation does reduce the risk in former smokers, the level of risk never declines to that of persons who have never smoked. Only the prevention of smoking can stop the epidemic of lung cancer. The report goes on to say, research during the past decade has produced further evidence that tobacco smoking is causally related to all the major clinical cardiovascular diseases. Heart disease and stroke, the main types of cardiovascular disease caused by smoking, are the first and third leading causes of death in the United States. Nearly 950,000 Americans die each year as a result of cardiovascular diseases, accounting for 39.4% of all deaths in 2000. These two are the major issues, but the list goes on with other factors such as dental disease, erectile dysfunction, effects on pregnancy, and bone mass. But if health concerns just don't seem to affect your decision, maybe the daily inconveniences associated with smoking will. One of the biggest inconveniences I can think of is when I'm at work. Government facility. Everybody knows that you can't smoke in a government facility now. So most of my friends, they take about 4 to 5 smoke breaks a day and probably spend about 10 to 15 minutes on each smoke break. So if you add that up, that's probably at least an hour a day just on smoke breaks. So think about how that can keep you from getting your job done and making your mission successful. It's a pretty big inconvenience. It might end up negatively impacting your career. And then, what you need to think about is many states are coming up with legislation now where they're banning smoking in public facilities. The main ones that would affect me are restaurants and bars. When you go out to eat with your friends, you might be in the middle of a conversation, having a good time, then you got to go outside just to smoke a cigarette, and you'd end up missing a lot of the conversation, and it just ends up being a big inconvenience. Maybe one of the biggest inconveniences you'll come across will be how it affects your wallet. I did a little research, went to a local convenience store, see how much cigarettes cost on the average. Figured out that about $4 a pack is on average. Depends on what brand you get, but it's around $4 average. That ends up translating to $120 a month and about $1,440 a year. So I got to thinking to myself, what could I do with $1,400 a year? Well, I could buy a 55-inch LCD TV and a Blu-ray player, or I could buy 2 plane tickets to Las Vegas, 3 nights at a hotel, and still have plenty of money left for spending. So in the end, you really need to ask the question, is the overall cost of smoking worth it? The idea here was not to portray an image that smoking cigarettes makes anyone less of a person, but to help convince you that the benefits of smoking do not outweigh the consequences. Though it may be an individual choice to smoke, the result of doing so can and will affect everyone in your life somehow. I hope that explaining the health concerns, the inconveniences, and the expenses of smoking cigarettes will help lead you to make the right decision.